I should be ashamed of myself for not having gotten into investigating what Reich himself said much earlier. It shows how prejudice filtered by pervade by the establishment has its effect.
It affects even you, Eugene. Stay with us. We'll be back with you and more phone calls. Just a moment. I'm George Norrie. This is Coast to Coast AM. Dr. Mallove, let's take some more calls, and then maybe toward the end of the show you can tell us a little bit about the Joseph Pop Noble gas engine.
Yes, I will.
Let us go. Who's been waiting so long? Wild card line, you're on Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Good evening, George. Dr. Mallove.
Yes, sir.
I have two quick questions for you. Number one, if the United States federal government is aware of this cold fusion energy, why haven't they applied it to our usable standings now?
Our what standings?
Usable standings such as in automobiles, houses, and that type of stuff.
Well, the United States government employs scientists within its structure and employs, in effect, employs university scientists, all of whom are on record, quite publicly so, calling this utter nonsense. In other words, their opinion was formed very early on that the claims and the statements by Drs. Pons and Fleischmann and those who confirmed their work afterwards were fallacious. Okay? They went on record. I mean, one, a hot fusion researcher by the name of Dr. William Happer, still at Princeton, I believe, he told one journalist who wrote a very negative book against cold fusion, he said just by looking at Fleischmann and Pons on television, you could tell they were incompetent boobs. Now, when you have that person on the panel that was supposedly giving an objective review, then you know that he doesn't, to his core, believe it. He does not, probably to this day.
What about UFOs? Do you believe that UFOs will possibly use some type of ether energy, seeing the fact that its ratio for speed is such as that?
Right.
That
yeah, if UFOs are real extraterrestrial spacecraft, and I'm not saying they are, they may well be for all I know, I think there's a strong possibility of that. I do believe that they would have to employ the physics of the universe, which is based, as far as I'm concerned, based on all the things I know today, on the ether, the energetic ether. And one could move through this ether at extremely high speeds. One could obviously tap infinite amounts of energy. Listen, if today devices on Earth that I've told about and that are on our website and in our magazines, our journals, that can do these things right now, that is, tap ether energy, not hydrogen energy per se, but ether energy right now. If we can do that now in a laboratory, then extraterrestrials that are many centuries, millennia ahead of us obviously have mastered this completely, and it would not surprise me at all that they are using that in their craft. And by the way, anti-gravity is another manifestation of the ether. It is a very provocative topic, but I can assure you that I have been witness to anti-gravitational effects demonstrated in the laboratory that have reduced the mass of small objects that are made of one material, gold namely, by at least 70%.
Wow.
They've gone higher. They've gone to 95%.
I believe Boeing is working on some anti-gravity.
Unfortunately, the work they're doing is being done in a rather half-baked way, and there are many claims of anti-gravity today. But if it's done improperly or not based on the right kind of theoretical models, you will have very poor results.
Next up, let's go west of the Rockies. You're on Coast to Coast with us. Hi there.
Hello, George. This is Chris in Fairbanks, Alaska.
Hi, Chris. Go ahead.
All right. My question for Dr. Mallove is, well, there's a couple things, really. You mentioned the Wilhelm Reich experiment with the thermometers.
Yes, indeed.
A friend of mine and I actually did that in 1990. We found a book in our college library that described how to do it.
How'd you do it?
Well, we built, basically, it was a 1 foot by 1 foot Oregon accumulator.
Yeah.
And once we realized it was actually working, we didn't have a Stirling engine, so we used this thing my mom had. It was a Christmas decoration. You light some candles, and the heat causes this little thing to spin.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those.
Yeah.
And it's on like a needle or something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we put it on top of it, put a glass container around it, and made sure it got no heat from below and everything. And it actually worked. Mm-hmm. And the only reason we did it was we were curious about the comment Einstein had made. When he looked inside one, he said, "I don't want to talk about it anymore."
Well, there was a lot of correspondence which the Wilhelm Reich Museum in Rangeley, Maine sells. It's a 100-page book of the actual copies of the letters, typewritten letters, back and forth between Reich and Einstein, or should I say Einstein and his associates, because he didn't have anything further directly to say to Reich afterwards, other than basically, go away,
yeah.
in so many words. But it's a shameful episode in the history of science, and unfortunately, Einstein, who died in 1955, 2 years before Reich died, could have opened the world's eyes to this true ether and created ultimately perhaps the beginnings of a unified field theory, but he missed the boat because he was not interested in pursuing the experiment, much as the physicists today say of cold fusion, oh yes, your thermometer is in the wrong place, and you're not doing the bookkeeping correctly, and you must be making mistakes, and because you look like incompetent boobs on television, I'm not going to even investigate your experiments. I mean, the arrogance of the physics establishment is mind-boggling. And I must make another comment here, because I didn't address this at all. Human health is at stake, too, not just human welfare about the environment and our national energy policy and so forth. It turns out that the ether is part and parcel of life. It is absolutely part of life, and all forms of alternative medicine that work, not all forms do, healing, touch, above all acupuncture, which is absolutely proved to be a real stimulus that travels from one part of the body to the other. They cannot be explained at all by conventional anatomy or conventional physics. The speed of transmission of the acupuncture signal, as done by a group at UC Irvine and in Japan and published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States in 1998, proves unequivocally that acupuncture is a real physical system within the human body. Unfortunately, our mainstream publications like Science and Nature chose to refuse publication of that exemplary work, and it had to be published instead in the much more obscure Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So the ether is part of life and will completely change medicine as well as energy.
Hey, you did a little bit of Hollywood, didn't you? A couple of years ago? Weren't you a consultant?
Oh, yes, I was a consultant to the, technical consultant to the film
The Saint.
The Saint, which used I did not write the script, of course, but Elizabeth Shue, Val Kilmer, had a nice program and a movie, and dealt with cold fusion as the theme. And honestly, some of the wonderful words that Elizabeth Shue uttered were written by yours truly.
Excellent. I like that movie.
It was good. I like Elizabeth Shue, of course.
East of the Rockies, welcome to Coast to Coast. Hi there.
Hi, George. How's it going?
Good.
Yes, I wanted to ask you, guest, what do you think about dimensional energy?
Well, when we get into the question of I have a very low opinion, actually, of alternate dimensions. The dimensions of space that we have and time are quite enough for me. Actually, there's no such thing, in my opinion, as space-time.
Okay, well,
so therefore, I don't believe in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 26th dimensions, which is the rage today with string theory and all this other gobbledygook of the physics establishment. I'll believe in extra dimensions if they can relate it to the experimental evidence of Tesla, Reich, the Correas, and cold fusion.
Okay, well, what I basically meant by that statement was, when you look up in the horizon, that's one dimension. A piece of paper is 2 dimensions. 3 dimensions and 4 dimensions, so on. Well, everything has dimensions. we have dimensions. Molecules have dimensions, and I mean, our galaxy, our solar system, is just one giant.
I mean,